Welcome to the financial reporting class for ACCA. Before I start, I'll just give a quick background of what I am doing, what we will provide, how we will approach the overall subject and papers of ACCA. So I'm Suraj Lakote. I'm a chartered accountant and SEMA UK qualified. I qualified way back in 2009 with All India rank, one in foundation, two in four in inter, and two in CA final. And then I have over about 7 years of corporate work experience where I worked in the core finance function. I worked for an Indian company, a listed company, and I've also worked for a company based out of Netherlands. Now they're based out of Singapore, the second largest commodity trading company. And there is where I had a great opportunity to work on both the Indian accounting standard side and also on the IFRS side. That is where my IFRS journey starts. Then after that, we started Indigo Learn, and I've been teaching since then. I've been teaching to CA students, CA Inter, CA Foundation, CA Final students. I have taught CIMA students. I teach CPA students as well. Right, I've taught CMA students as well, all in the domain of financial reporting. So have a wholesome experience of working and also teaching the Indian accounting standards, the IFRS, and also the US GAAP. So that is the broad background. At Indigo Learn, we do provide classes for CA. We provide classes for CFA and also ACCA. Welcome to the FR batch. We'll be starting off, and the way we would structure our learning is first we'll have an overview of the entire syllabus, what all we are going to cover, how we should approach, what can you expect in the examination, and after that is when we will start the actual classes. Now, a few things that I want to put it very clearly upfront. Whenever we are approaching a professional course, okay, like maybe a CA or an ACCA or a CPA for that matter, the fundamental, the basic thing that is needed, or the base that is required, is your knowledge, which is conceptually strong. So always whenever you are learning something, please ensure that concepts are absolutely clear. This is not any other examination where examiner will measure the length of your answer and give you the marks. That will not work. And because there would be case-based scenario, unless you know the concept. See, in every examination, it is not that you will read 10 questions and one of those 10 questions will come in the examination. In every examination, we'll have a different case scenario. Now, when I say case scenario, maybe something which is very relatable to a real life situation, and you are expected to solve that. Now, is it easy? No, I don't say it is not. It is easy. It is not. I can't just say, okay, you do these 10 things and it will happen. It is not easy. It needs a lot of practice. It needs a lot of conceptual understanding. And only with that you will be able to crack those, right? So that is one aspect which you have to be clear of. Second very important aspect that you need to be clear of, or you need to understand, is computer-based examination. Now, because we are writing, or we are in a computer-based examination environment, you'll be writing your answers in CBE environments. Good knowledge of working around with Excel is important, because you will have some kind of spreadsheet to work on, especially in cases where there are numericals involved. Your typing speed is very, very important. So what I suggest is, right from today itself, if your typing speed is good, no problem. But if your typing speed is average, let's say 20, 25 types of a thing, please start practicing. There are lots of free websites available. Just you need to spend 10 to 15 minutes a day, and you ensure that you speed up your typing. Now, why am I saying this is, if you are writing an examination and you have to type something, if you double up your speed, you get double the time. As simple as that. Okay, so typing is important, and playing around in spreadsheets, knowing basic Excel formulae and all of that is important. We obviously have a full-fledged course on Microsoft Excel. You can have a look at that, and that is important because it will save a lot of time in the examination, right? So that is about the broad overview, conceptual understanding, how to handle your examination. And please remember, we will, though all the concepts are not tested in depth, but we will be touching upon lots of concepts. So there will be lots of concepts for discussion, and sometimes we feel lost. We feel that when did I learn this? When did I learn that? So continuous revision is very, very important. We have given you access to ebooks, right? You can use those ebooks, make your own notes as you're preparing. If required, you can also purchase the workbooks or the practice kits for nearby the examination. We'll of course be helping you with mock test and all of that. So that will prepare you well for the examination. Continuous revision is necessary. I'm not saying study 10 hours a day, but at least whatever is done in a class that day and the next day, please ensure that you revise them. Okay. And as we go across the syllabus, as we complete the chapters, we will definitely be sharing with you tips and tricks on how to handle some scenarios in the examination. Now, as the class goes on, whenever you have a doubt, I'll give you a doubt asking window where you can pause and you can type in your doubts, and I'll be addressing those doubts. Even after that, if you have some doubts and if you're watching a recorded section, then you have a doubt, then you can make use of our forums. We have our app. I hope you have downloaded it. And that is where you will be able to ask your doubts, right? So that is the broad framework of how we will be approaching the preparation. If you in case if you have any doubts, you can ask me, or if you are good to go, I'll continue. So now we'll have a broad overview of what is that we are going to learn as a part of financial reporting. Firstly, why financial reporting? Why not accounting? Okay, so the subject name itself says reporting. So whatever we are going to learn as a part of this subject is to do with reporting. Okay, so we will be talking about how are financial statements reported, how is financial information reported to the users of the financial statement. So that will be the focus of of this topic. It is not accounting. See, when we say accounting, we talk about journal entries, we talk about ledger postings, we talk about trial balances. All of that is accounting. Now, are we required to pass journal entries here? Yes, of course, we will need to understand journal entries here. But from the point of view of how is a financial statement prepared and presented to the users of the financial statement, right? So we have this entire journey. Journal, start with the journal entry, then the ledger posting, then the trial balance, then the final accounts. That is where we are focusing on. Now, when we talk about financial reporting the financial statements to the users of the accounts, whatever we would be learning in ACCA would be in compliance with IFRS, which is the International Financial Reporting Standards. So all the topics that we are learning, or all the pointers that we would be learning, is with respect to International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS, right? So you see, you see these topics, all these tangible assets, intangible assets, impairment, all these chapters are based on IFRS. Now again, you are not required to have a very deep knowledge of IFRS, but yes, definitely a good conceptual understanding, a good working knowledge is very, very important, right? Now, when we look at a financial statement, what do we see in a financial statement? Or when I say financial statement, what am I referring to? Can you just give an answer? Bala, can you tell me what do you understand when I say financial statements? So when we say financial statement, we see balance sheet, we see income statement. There is something called a cash flow statement. There would be some explanatory notes to accounts. So for each item, whenever you pick up a financial statement, let us say you have picked up a balance sheet. In balance sheet, you have assets, you have liabilities. You pick up a income statement, you have income, you have expenses, right? You have taxation, you have profits. Then you have something called as a cash flow statement. Then for each item in the financial statement, you have, some explanatory notes, you have some accounting policies, right? Now for each of these, for assets, for liabilities, for, your income statements, for each of these, we have standards. We have International Financial Reporting Standards. We, of course, also have, standards which are, let's say, a US GAAP, or let's say an Indian accounting standard. All of those are there. Now, globally, what is followed in most of the countries is IFRS, or something which is closely linked to IFRS. Then, so when we come, for example, you see chapter 2 here, tangible non-current assets. So this will tell us how do we account for, how do we recognize, how do we measure non-current assets, which we normally refer to as fixed assets like property, plant and equipment, etc. Then we have intangible assets. Now these intangible assets are what? These are assets, something like a goodwill, a copyright, a patent. So this intangible assets related standard would tell us how do we account for, how do we measure, how do we recognize intangible assets. Then we have something called as impairment of assets. Now impairment is done when an asset may not be useful or may not be able to generate cash flows for us. So at that point of time, how do we make a provision, right? That is what is covered by impairment of assets. Then we have non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operation. Now this aspect will cover if at all we are having a non-current asset. Now when I say a non-current asset, say for example, it is a property, plant and equipment, it is a plant and machinery item, it is a vehicle. After it has been used, if I want to sell it, if I want to keep it aside for sale, how should I do the accounting for is covered in this topic, right? Impairment basically is, let us say I have a machine which costed me 100,000. Okay. Today, I feel that the amount of benefit I will get is only 50,000. So what do I do with the balance amount is covered by impairment. This one is something where you have decided or you want to or you have almost decided to sell a non-current asset. Then a conceptual and regulatory framework. Now this talks about what are the regulatory framework, means what are the overall guidelines related to preparation of published standards, right? Then we have some other standards, residual standards which are not covered above, that would be covering in chapter number 8. Then financial assets and financial liabilities. This is one very important part of the overall understanding, because this is something which you would not have learned earlier. Even if you have done CA Inter, you would have not learned it earlier. Okay, so that is where it becomes very important. Then we have transactions in foreign currency. How do we account for transactions in foreign currency is covered by these foreign currency related standards. Then revenue. Now, so far we have seen balance sheet items. Foreign currency is linked to revenue also. Then we have revenue. Now, revenue again is a critical standard, a very important standard that tells us when should we recognize the revenue, how should we recognize the revenue, how much of revenue should be recognized. All of those aspects would be covered in this standard, that is revenue related standard. Then we have leases, again a very, very important standard which talks about how do we account for assets which have been taken on lease. Okay. Then taxation. Here we will be talking about for a given amount of profit, how should the entity account for taxation, current taxation, what is deferred taxation, and all of that. Some of these terms may sound new to you, but as we progress in the chapter, it will be absolutely clear, right? Then earnings per share. Now, earnings per share, when we talk about the given amount of profit, how much of that profit can be attributed to a share is covered by earnings per share related standard. Okay. Then we have IAS 37 and IAS 10. See, all these also have their respective IAS number or IFRS number. As we do it, we'll understand which number is that. Okay. Then IAS 37, this talks about provisions, contingencies, and all of that. Basically, when do you create a liability? Then IAS 10 talks about your events occurring after the balance sheet date and all of that. Right? So again, for P&L statement, or that's your income statement, and for a balance sheet items, what are the various treatment to be given for each item is given by all of these standards. So tomorrow, if you look at a balance sheet or a published account, that is what we will be starting with. Whenever you look at that, let us say there is an item of property, plant and equipment. So something should strike your mind saying, okay, there is a standard on property, plant and equipment. Okay, then so that standard property, plant and equipment is covered by IAS 16, right? Then similarly, you have items related to intangible assets, which is covered by 38, right? Then you have impairment of assets, that's covered by 36. Okay, so like this, for each standard we have a number, for each item we have a number. And whenever you see a financial statement, let us say there are leasehold properties, something should strike you that, okay, there is IFRS 16 which I should refer to. Now don't worry about these numbers. As we prepare, as we progress, each number you will be getting used to, and you will be able to understand, okay, this standard is given by this particular number. Now after your P&L is done, after your balance sheet is done, after this is done, right, then so we have covered balance sheet, covered P&L, then we have statement of cash flows. So basically this talks about how will we prepare our cash flow statement, right? So this is about financial statements prepared for a company. That is what will be covered in this particular chapter. Then you see this chapter 17, 18 and 19, consolidated financial statements. Now these chapters will talk about how should we prepare financial statements for a group of companies. See, whatever we learn here are for individual items. Now, from chapter 17 onwards till chapter 19, 20 and 21, these will talk about how do we prepare consolidated financial statements for a group of companies. Okay, so when I say group of companies, say there is a holding company and say there is a subsidiary company. There is a holding company and a subsidiary company. So, holding company will prepare its standalone financial statement. Subsidiary company will also prepare standalone financial statement. Then the group as a whole will prepare a consolidated financial statement. That is what we'll be covering in these chapters. Then interpretation and of financial statement, and of course, in each subject we have something related to technology skills. That is what we would be understanding, right? So this is the broad overview of content. Some of these things you have already understood or you'll be able to understand immediately. Some of these things you will be able to understand only when we go through a particular chapter, right? So this is the content overview. Even if you are not able to understand, don't worry. As we take it up chapter by chapter, this will be absolutely clear. No problem at all, right? Now, coming to the next important aspect, I also suggest you to read all of these, in the ebook which is provided to you. Coming to the next important aspect, that is your exam preparation. So we are here currently at financial reporting level, which is applied skills level. Okay. So now, and this is the content outline, the learning objective. What all you are expected to learn? You are expected to learn the conceptual and regulatory framework. Then you are expected to learn accounting for transactions in financial statement, tangible, non-current and current and all of that, right? Then you are expected to learn how to analyze and interpret the financial statements and how to prepare financial statements. Single entity financial statement for one entity and consolidated financial statements for a group. Not very complicated at this level, so we'll be able to handle it easily. Okay. Then now coming to the examination format, which is the most important format. Any questions so far? Okay, thanks. No questions. Okay. Now coming to the examination format, which is the most important thing for us, right? Examination is, of course, conceptual understanding is important. Of course, you need to understand how to prepare financial statements, but ultimately you need to appear in the examination and you need to clear the examination, right? That is our ultimate objective. So now we will be taking some, sample questions. We'll be taking some mock papers. Even, Kaplan covers a lot of relevant questions for the examination. The pattern of the exam, if you see, is into three parts: section A, section B, section C. So you have three sections. Section A is objective test. 15 objective test questions of 2 marks each. Meaning to say, each question will be for 2 marks. It will be an objective type, meaning to say it will be a multiple choice question. So you may be given a brief question, you may be given a brief concept, you may be required to do a brief competition sometimes, right? But most likely this would be a theory based or conceptual based understanding questions, where you will have 15 questions of 2 marks each. That's the first one. Then section B comprises of 3 objective case study questions. Now, in this part, what you will have is, you will have a case study. Now, what do I mean by case study? Basically, they will give a scenario. They'll give a scenario. I can just randomly show you from some chapter. So, here if you can see, they have given you an information. The following information is to be used for all 5 of the following questions. So, this is the information. The company has some non-current assets. Okay, asset is given, date acquired, all of this has been given. Then some more, information is given related to, the useful life and all of that. Then they have given this question. They have decided to revalue its head office. Then what should be done? A, B, C, D. So this is a case scenario. This entire thing is a case. And based on that, there are 5 questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So these are objective type questions which you are supposed to answer based on a given information. So in normal examination, when you write a BCom examination or a CA examination or any other examination, what happens is, these kind of questions you have to show the computation and all of that. But here you are not required to show, in this part specifically, you are not required to show computation because these are objective type questions. Okay. Then, so first 15 objective test questions into 2 marks each, that is 30 marks. Then section B, 3 objective case questions, 10 marks each. So 5 objective into 2. sorry, 5 into 2, 10 into 3, 30. So 30, 30. And last one is a constructed response. Now, when we say a constructed response, these are not objective types. You would not be given options. Okay. You have to construct. Maybe you have to prepare a financial statement. Maybe you have to prepare a cash flow statement, and all computer based. Huh? So knowledge of computer becomes very, very important. Knowledge of Excel and Word becomes very, very important. Typing also becomes very, very important, right? So that is where an online class like this would really help you, because we will also be working around in Excel, and that is what will really help you in, and addressing these type of questions in the examination. If your Excel knowledge is not so great, I would definitely recommend you to take up a course on Microsoft Excel. In case you have purchased the entire pack at once, then you already have access to it, the Excel course, which you can make use of it, right? So this is the examination format. Now, because it is objective does not mean it is easy. Okay, because it is objective does not mean it is easy. You will have to think through while answering the questions. Some of them may be straightforward. I'm not saying no, but you will have to put extra efforts to understand the concepts, and right. So that is the broad thing about our overall syllabus, how you should approach. Conceptual clarity, very, very, very important. I'll keep on telling this because that is what will ensure your success in the examination, right? And that is it. If you have any questions so far, so now what we will be referring to is this book, the soft copy of which is available to you at Kaplan. And we would also be taking help of this book, and as and when we take questions or concepts from this, I will make you note down, and we'll also be providing you as a part of the Excel notings that you would do. So these are the study resources we would be using. And so to start with the first chapter, and a thing that you'll find difference in ACCA or SEMA or CPA for that matter is that we always start with what is our learning objectives. See, in most of the cases we say it's a syllabus. International courses, they have a lot of emphasis on what is the learning objective or learning outcome. Basically, after this chapter, what you should be able to learn and understand would be given in the chapter's learning objective. It is not just for some random mention they have given. It is important we understand. So in this chapter we'll understand how to prepare an entity's financial statements in accordance with prescribed structure and content. So here we will understand the overall structure of financial statements, and we must be able to prepare and explain a statement called statement of changes in equity. So these are the two things that we'll be understanding here: broad financial statements and statement of changes in equity, right? So just a second, there is before I jump into the chapter, this is chapter number 24, and we would go through this once because only then we'll be able to understand the structure. Okay, so and try to read as many annual reports as you can, a couple of them at least, based on IFRS. Even based on Indian listed entities are also fine. Try to read them so that once you read them, you get a habit of, okay, this item I have learned here, this item is there in this chapter. Okay, so we'll first have a look at what is the pro forma or what is the format of a published financial statement. So first one what we have is statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income for the year ended 31st December of year 2. So unless they have mentioned, unless otherwise specified, for ACCA examination, the financial year end will be on 31st of December of a particular year. So what is the first statement? Statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income. Now, profit or loss, you have seen earlier also. You have understood what is the meaning of profit or loss. Other comprehensive income are those specific items which are in the nature of income or which are in the nature of some gains, but they are not reported as profit. They are not reported as profit in the current period. They may be reported as profit in the future, or they may not be reported in the profit. But this other comprehensive income is also something which belongs to the shareholders, which belongs to the owner. So we'll understand, subsequently. Let us say there is a revaluation of a property, plant and equipment. Okay. So when you revalue a property, plant and equipment, the value of property, plant and equipment goes up. That gain on revaluation of property, plant and equipment will not be reported in P&L. it will be reported in other comprehensive income. Now again, for now, at this point of time, I don't want you to bother about what goes into other comprehensive income or what goes into P&L. What I want you to do is, I want you to understand the overall structure of a financial statement. Then we'll understand what all goes to P&L and what all goes in OCI. Each standard will tell us, okay, this item you take it to P&L, this item you have to take it to OCI. So each standard will tell us what do we, where do we include a gain or a loss, whether in P&L or in other comprehensive income. Now, other comprehensive income is when we say that income is not available for distribution as profit. You cannot declare dividends out of that, right? So that is what will be, some specific items, and the standards prescribe, okay, these are the items that has to be taken to OCI. So you have statement of P&L or profit or loss, continuing operation again. So operations which are being continued. If you remember, there is one chapter which talked about discontinued operation. So there are continuing operation and discontinued operation. Okay. So ignore this for now. You have revenue. Revenue will cover in chapter number 11. How to recognize, what to recognize, how much to recognize. Then cost of sales. Basically, your opening stock purchases, closing stock related adjustment, that is given as a part of your cost of sales. Then you have gross profit. From that, you remove distribution cost, administrative expenses, exceptional items, you get profit from operation. Then from that, you remove finance cost, you adjust investment income, what you get is profit before tax. Then you get income tax expense. Then your profit from the year from continuing operation, profit for the year from discontinued operation. This will understand in the standard of assets held for sale and discontinued operation. Okay. Then profit for the year from all operations. So basically, so far what you have seen, you have revenue, you have cost of sales, you have expenses, you have finance cost, you have investment income. All of that put together, you'll have profit before tax. Then you will have income before tax or income tax expense. Then you'll have continuing operations profit and discontinued operations profit. Then you have other comprehensive income. I told you, right? Loss or gain on revaluation. So you'll understand in the second chapter itself, that there are non-current assets which can be revalued. If there are gain or loss on revaluation, you will take it to other comprehensive income. Then similarly, gain or loss on some financial assets. No, don't worry about the terminology here. Specific items, specific standard will tell, can you take it to P&L or can you take it to other comprehensive income? They use the term recognize in P&L, recognize in other comprehensive income. Then you have total comprehensive income for the year. So when I say total comprehensive income, it is the profit and other comprehensive income put together. Okay. Then your financial position. One shift that you would see here is, till now, if you have followed, other gaps, or if you have followed, if you go back to your BCom or you go back at 10+2, you have always seen liabilities first and then assets. In the financial statements, we would have seen liabilities first and then the asset. Whereas under IFRS or under Ind AS, you will see non-current assets or assets first and then the liabilities. So this also is a shift that you need to remember. In the examination, say by mistake, you write liabilities first, then assets next, it's gone. So very careful. Okay. Have assets and then liabilities. Now when you have assets, again, non-current assets, property, plant and equipment, we have a specific chapter. Right of use assets is related to leases. Intangible assets, we have a chapter. Investment properties, non-current assets. Investments, financial assets. All of these, each chapter. So basically, from each of the chapter, you'll understand and you will prepare this statement. Okay. And this can be one question in your, 20-mark thing where you need to actually, compute and prepare and present a financial statement. Then you have current assets, inventories, trade receivables, cash and cash equivalents. Here also you'll have specific standards. Then you have equity and liabilities, share capital, premium, retained earnings, OCI or revaluation surplus, convertible loan, ignore for now. Only when you understand financial liabilities and equity, you'll be able to understand why did we put loan under, capital and reserves. Then you have non-current liabilities, all of these items, borrowings, deferred tax, leases and all of that. Then you have current liabilities, which is your trade payables, overdraft, current tax and all of that. So all this put together becomes your equity and liabilities. Okay. So basically, you have your income statement, then you have your statement of financial position, what we refer to as balance sheet. So in under IFRS, we would say statement of financial position as at 31st of December of year 2. Okay. Then there is something called as a statement of changes in equity. Now this basically is what this tells us. Okay, whatever is your opening capital balance, share capital, securities premium, revaluation surplus, retained earnings, all this, what is the opening balance? What is the closing balance? What is the opening balance? What is the closing balance? And what is the movement in that is explained by this statement. So if you look at the opening balance of, let's say, share capital, you have share capital here, right? And then you have closing balance of share capital. What increase the share capital? What reduce the share capital? All of that you have to present in this statement of changes in equity. Right? And these are working notes. So you may be required to prepare a statement of P&L and statement of financial position and all of that, right? So now our understanding should be, or whenever we are learning a chapter, our understanding should be this topic, this chapter will impact which item in the financial statement. For example, when we learn about property, plant and equipment, I think that is chapter number 3 or chapter number 2. Right. So we have IAS 16, property, plant and equipment, IAS 40, investment properties. These items, how will it impact our P&L? How will it impact our balance sheet? Then how do we calculate depreciation? What happens because of revaluation? What to do with borrowing costs? How will it impact? What to do with government grants? How will it impact? So whenever you learn a chapter, it is not only one chapter. See, in this chapter, we will talk about 10 different things, and that ultimately will impact your financial statement. So when you prepare your, prepare a particular topic, that should be the approach. Don't think that, okay, I know chapter 2, I'm done. If they give you financial statements, you must know all the chapters, right? So that has to be the approach when we, start our preparation for ACCA, not only for this particular topic, not only for this particular subject, but for also other subjects. And another very important thing is this, the financial reporting part will form a base for your, level 3. That's a professional level where you will be using all of these concepts all over again. These are basics. This will be tested in advanced level in the next level. Right. So that is the overview.